Hello, my name is Natalia Louie. I'm part of INTERalliance Leadership Council. Right now, you're watching the AMA of June 5th. Have my calendar right there. I'm very happy to see you here. Well, I can't see you, but I'm very happy that you're tuning in. So right now, this is an AMA, but we do have some upcoming events. For the next week, on Wednesday, we have a tech talk with Matt Sweeterman, the mobile software engineer at Kroger. And we also have another one on Saturday with Mark Gosson. He's a cloud revolutionist. That's the name of his presentation. So I hope to see you guys there too. They will be both starting at 4 p.m. Stay tuned with what we do at INTERalliance on our social media. The links will be down below in the description. Just follow us, stay up to date with what we're doing, and hopefully join in on more of our AMAs. Right now we have an amazing speaker, Tracy Ruberg. I'm so sorry. I almost said Ruthberg again. Every time I say your name, I spell your name, I'm like Ruthberg. But would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, glad to be here. Tracy Ruberg. I am doing my own consulting, president and owner of T6 Group, and also the executive director of The Circuit, which is a nonprofit IT industry association designed to bring IT professionals in our region together so that they can connect and collaborate.
It's really amazing. I read up a little bit of what you do on LinkedIn, and that's like resume worthy achievements. I was like, I wish I could work in a company as you, but not yet. Yes, but I'm really happy that you're here. I'm really happy you're spending time to answer some of these questions on this interview. So with our very first question, I have to ask, how was your journey? How was your journey to where you are now? Was it kind of rough? Was it pretty easygoing? Was it up to fate?
I would say it was accidental, and it has been a roller coaster.
Nice.
And I say accidental because if you would have told me when I was in high school that I would graduate with a degree firmly settled in math and do computer stuff, I would have said you were crazy. But when I got to college and took some courses in the IT field, computer science stuff, I found that I loved it and then ended up going down that path. So that's the accidental part. The roller coaster part is kind of the ups and downs of the industry, and wanting to stay in one city and not move a lot has meant a number of job changes. Being asked to move out of the region and turning that down. So that's the ups and downs. But I can say with every single situation, regardless of what it looked like at the moment, looking back, there were good things that came out of every single one of them.
Nice. That's amazing. I'm so happy your career path went really well for you.
Thanks.
Can you explain a little bit about opportunities to move out of state? I didn't know that you would have to do that in an IT career so often.
Well, it depends on the organizations you're working for, but I've been blessed to work for both really, really big companies like HP, Dell, EMC, Ernst & Young, Cincinnati Bell. So big companies. Cincinnati Bell being local, so didn't have to worry about moving with them. But then also to work for some smaller privately held family companies. And that wasn't so much an issue with them. But when you're working for the really big ones, sometimes the opportunities to advance mean you need to move physically out of the region. Now, it'll be interesting to see with COVID, that may change some because we're obviously finding lots of new cool ways and that we can be really productive differently. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes in the years ahead. But a couple of my opportunities, the next step was going to be, look, we're scaling back in your market. We're realigning. We have this job in Dallas. Would you like to take it? And I said no. So
fair enough. Cincinnati is pretty amazing, just have to say.
Yeah, I'm kind of biased.
Yeah, because INTERalliance is here. You're here. I mean, I think it's a pretty nice city.
Yeah.
I had a question. I just completely lost the place. Huh. Oh well, move on to the next question. What's the hardest part about your job?
Which one?
Oh no. Your top two.
Yeah, so, well, actually I mean which job. So with the job that I have now, owning my own consulting company and doing my own work, like most people will tell you, getting involved in the work and loving what you're doing and working with your clients and delivering the work is awesome. Talking to enough people to find the next work is always the challenge for everybody. Now, again, I've been very fortunate that a lot of my career was in sales. So those sales steps do come naturally, but keeping them at the right level to maintain the work you want is the hard part. With respect to the circuit, the hardest part is helping people, it's the marketing and getting the word out to the right audience, because the IT field we're not naturally good networkers and kind of people usually. So trying to figure out how to reach them and provide meaningful contact and meaningful interactions to help that grow is kind of the constant challenge. What's valuable to our members? What would incent new additional people to come and participate?
Fair enough. That is a pretty difficult challenge. Well, it's kind of generally assumed that most business majors are completely avoid IT because of its complexity. So at your company, how do you break it down for those people?
So I think the good news is that is actually changing. So if you look at a lot of the curriculums in some of the major business schools now, IT courses are required regardless of your specialization. So that's a huge, huge shift back in the dark ages when I started. And it definitely there was a big difference. I think the other challenge, I think it goes the other way too, though. Folks that take a primarily computer science focus that is not in the business school, I think that's the bigger miss. It's because that's such a science-oriented field, and they go so technical and into the math and the functionality, which is all great. But then we take those folks and we put them in the business world, and we haven't given them some of the basics of the business. So where business is doing a good job of requiring the computer courses, I think the computer science schools need to continue to add basic business functions to what they are doing. So getting that people skill, how to work in teams is so much better now than it used to be. Mm-hmm. It's not, the computer science field is not a solo, sit by yourself in a dark room all the time kind of job. Not anymore at all. It's very collaborative, but helping everybody understand how they fit into the bigger picture is what's important, because no one can do it by silos anymore. You really got to be cross-functional.
That is a really good point. I guess I never thought of it from that perspective. I've just usually seen things from an IT perspective as like business majors are this, and they just don't want to deal with us. But yeah, that brings up a really good point. So would you say you're more onto a business side of the world or the more technical side?
No, I'm definitely more business side, especially now. Now, there were parts of my career that were clearly more technical when I worked directly in IT. But I think part of my success in my career was the ability to do the communication and bridge that gap to the business. And so now I find, even now after so many years, being able to bridge that gap is a very missing link and a critical piece for lots of organizations and individuals. So if that's not your strength yourself, find someone you can team up with to help you create that translation to the other side, no matter which side of it you're on. Because there is definitely this kind of understanding, I miss in there that the business side and the computer science IT side, everyone has their own language. And we don't always understand the other one, and we don't want to appear stupid. So we sometimes don't ask what the other one means, and kind of go,
yeah,
I knew what they meant, but I just realized now I really didn't know what they meant. So finding somebody to play that interim translation role for you is a really good place to be.
Definitely. I myself am a victim of doing that, completely avoiding the question of, so what does that mean? Well, in the light of recent events with COVID-19, how is this communication happening? I know a lot of companies have started using digital, like virtual platforms like Zoom and WebEx, but are there any other strategies you've been using in your company?
So to say there are other strategies, probably not. I think what's changed is, as you said, there are clearly lots of digital platforms, whether it's Zoom or Teams or Google Meet or WebEx, pick the tool. I think we found that we can get a lot done through these tools that we never realized before. Lots of folks thought that they had to be different. What the challenging part is, as we were just talking about, trying to bridge the gap between all the groups and bring that together. We have to work a little bit harder in this digital platform because you don't have the walk-bys. You don't just run into the person in the hall. You don't just get that casual conversation in different places. So you got to figure it out. So it means you have to be a lot more intentional in bringing those other parts of the business into your conversations and into the communication outwardly. So it's requiring more frequent, intentional discussions.
That's a very good point. Yeah, a lot of the social aspect has been taken away by COVID-19. So I guess that is kind of the hardest part. Moving slightly like towards career oriented. Was there a goal you wanted to achieve during your career? And what was it?
I've always had goals. The first one was get a job out of college.
Very good one.
So that was step one. And then it was to become a manager and be leading other teams. And then what was interesting was when that happened, I kind of went through almost a depressed state because it was like, oh, that was my goal. I hit it. Now what? And what I learned was I had to always set another goal for myself to feel challenged and to be striving and learning something new. And my original thought had been, okay, I've got this technology background, I have this marketing background, and lots of businesses are led by folks that came out of sales. So I want to get this sales background and I want to be a sales manager. And I did all of that and I became a sales manager and I went, I don't really like this sales manager thing. And I really don't care if I want to run a big company. That wasn't where I wanted to go. So I had to take a step back. I went back into the technical field, into selling directly technology solutions. And what I learned was I love that problem solving. I love that learning about, at the time was my customers' situations, and then doing the research and figuring out what was best for them, whether it was my solution or not. So my goals shifted from that point on was to make sure every job and everything I did, what was the problem solving, what was the learning that I could get, and how could I help somebody do something better? And so that's been my goal and how I kind of drive my days now.
That's amazing. I'm so happy you're able to find that. Sometimes it does take a depressive state to get there. So I'm happy you got through it really well.
Yep. It was an interesting time, and you don't realize that stuff when you're in it. It's when you get out of it and you look back. You go, oh, that's kind of what was going on. Now I get it. Okay, let's learn from this and move forward. So then from that point on, I was able to get a lot more proactive in planning my next steps, mapping out, literally writing out on a piece of paper, what's important to me. What is it in a job that I love? What is it, if it's in a job, I'm going to say, heck, I am not taking it. And what things in a job are in the middle and on a sliding scale. And ironically, over a whole lot of years, there have been very few things that have changed on that list. So looking back, I wish someone had kind of given me that guidance when I was a lot younger, and then evaluated job opportunities and roles based on that list, not based on job title or perception or money.
That is very important. My parents always tell me, just do what you love and money will follow.
Yeah, and it does.
I feel like that's a really important lesson. Another lesson is like to keep learning. So yeah. Do you have any IT topics that you're currently studying or any business like ideas you're like looking into?
Well, if you saw my office, you would know that that's an ongoing thing. There are always books in there. And So I juggle between the soft skills and the specific. So I do spend a lot of time and really research leadership topics, change management, those types of things. So like Lencioni is an author that has a book called The Advantage that is just phenomenal for learning how to help teams work. He has 5 dysfunctions of a team. So those types of books I keep on my bookshelf. I keep them highlighted, sticky notes in them, and refer to them often. From a specific technology topic, I'm really interested in intelligent automation right now. So the culmination of robotic process automation coupled with AI and ML, machine learning.
Yeah.
And so trying to learn more and more about that. I think that's going to be, that's the tip of the next version of industrialization, if you will, and the shifting. So as we get smarter with those things and combine them, we're going to create lots of new jobs and lots of new opportunities to help people have more engaging work and get rid of some of the boring work.
Definitely. Speaking of AI and ML, we did have a previous tech talk with Cole Conklin about AI and ML in the cloud. It was really interesting. You should be able to find it on our YouTube channel. But can you tell me again the author of the book, The Advantage?
Lencioni, Lencioni.
Lencioni.
Cioni.
All right. We'll try to find the Amazon equivalent to that book and put it in the description below.
Awesome.
I believe a lot of our audience would like to know more about how they can better themselves, because most of them are in high school, so they'd like to learn the best ways to do what they want to do. And speaking of, in this coming age, after the light of COVID-19 and the light of how amazing tech jobs are, how hard is it for a young IT student to get a job in the next maybe 4 to 5 years?
Oh, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem at all, because it's the one field that continues to grow like crazy. The key is going to be the jobs that are out there are going to be lots of jobs that haven't been taught in school, because the colleges are trying to learn and keep up just as quick as industry is. So the folks that are in IT that can gravitate and learn the new thing and apply the methodology of learning to lots of other things are the ones that will skyrocket. And the ones that raise their hands and say, I'm willing to try that. I'm willing to take on this challenge. Let me help with this project, are the ones that will really succeed. But I don't see the number of IT opportunities going down anytime soon.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Especially in IA, we're trying to, increase the amount of times we can expose a lot of high schoolers to IT. Do you have any opportunities to get into IT? I know there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube. There's a lot of websites that have tutorials on how to do things. But do you have any specific ones that you think would be really helpful for high schoolers? Like some books, podcasts?
All the ones that come to my mind are ones I know you guys already have on your list at INTERalliance. Because Heather's really good at making sure that stuff's there.
Heather is really good at that. Heather Ackland's our executive director. She's basically in charge of the entire group, but the ILC puts out the events.
Right.
So if you want to know more, again, the links are in the description. Feel free to follow us. Let's see, what other questions do I have? There's a lot of them. Oh, here's a question about what kind of computer do you use? There's a lot of debate about Mac versus Dell or Linux operating systems,
I've been an IBM Intel person from day one in terms of, I actually had a college internship at IBM's, and then I worked at Dell. So my last multiple systems have been Dell. No one in my family owns anything Apple or Mac, not one device.
Sad to say I have an iPhone and a MacBook right in front of me. Oh well.
Not surprising. Most people do. But I started in that IBM Intel world and have just kind of stayed steadfast. All the companies I've worked for have all been based on that. So I've never moved to the Apple stuff at all.
So nothing about Apple excites you? The
No,
simplicity, the design, the removal of earbuds from the
no,
headphones jack. Yeah, I
no.
completely understand though.
For me, it's, you know, it's kind of like learn the Windows world first, and that's what was easy, and it's worked well. So
Fair enough. So I guess the question of Android or Apple is slightly null.
yeah, Android,
Definitely Android. Do you prefer dogs or cats?
dogs. I'm
Same.
allergic to cats, so that's not a good choice.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see. All right. So something about your job. So how does okay? Can you compare and contrast your job before COVID-19 and after COVID-19? Like your day-to-day routine, sort of.
The biggest difference is instead of doing the face-to-face meetings with my clients and workshops, we're doing them over Zoom.
Fair
Um,
enough.
the bulk of that has been fine. There's been a little bit of time that it's like, wow, it'd be really helpful if we were in the same room so we could do some whiteboard. So I've got to find an online whiteboarding tool that
Huh.
would be helpful to facilitate like doing network diagrams and data flows. Just a little bit tough.
That would be very helpful. Yes. I assume Google Drawing would be tedious, but would work. But no, it'd be
Yeah,
very tedious.
that's the thing. Some of them you can use, but then how do you make sure you integrate it to whatever video tool you're using?
But you have
So
to.
I'm kind of hoping that we don't have to keep doing it and I can just go back to being in the room, but we'll see.
Know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So I guess at your job, you mainly talk to customers since you're mainly on the business side.
Yeah, so I work with clients in a variety of ways, helping them develop their IT strategy, helping them implement a new solution, define the requirements that they have for that solution, and help them really think through why are they doing what they're doing, what is the outcome that they want, how are they going to maintain it in an ongoing method that isn't cumbersome so
Yeah.
they can get some real results. So I really help them clarify what their goal is, map out the different strategies and paths they can take to get to it, pros and cons of each of those, then guide them through whatever route they've picked and navigate them through the changes that come up because something's always off. And then
Yeah.
leave them in a way that they can sustain the benefits that they've achieved throughout it. So for me, it's working with the clients and their team. So it depends on the client and the exact project, but one time it may be the executive team. The next project may be everybody from the president down to the guy at the loading dock and accounting and marketing, because we're trying to map out the processes that they have in order to facilitate, say, an enterprise resource planning ERP system in a manufacturing environment. So another may be working with sales to help them map out their sales process so we can do the business process map that gets built in behind Salesforce. So,
Oh, is there a common question that you get when you talk to clients? Like a common question you see in almost every other one in all your years of experience?
nothing comes to mind because everybody thinks their environment is unique.
Okay.
One of the most common question that should always be asked, and is sometimes, is what are we trying to accomplish? What
That's
is our
simple.
actual goal? So I've actually just had to do some thought on this for something else, and I kind of dubbed it. There tends to be three types of, obviously this is a gross generalization, but
Yeah.
three types of IT organizations and people. You've got the people that think IT is that necessary evil. I don't understand it. It's this big expense. It's just got to be there. Why do I have to know anything about it? Just give me what I need and let me do my job. So it's the utility mentality. It's kind of like thinking of IT as your heating and air conditioning in your house. You really don't care how it works. You really don't want to know. But boy, it better be able to cool the house down if it's 90 degrees outside, and it better be able to warm it up if it's 0, right?
Yeah.
So You're really aware of it when it's not doing exactly what you want it to do. But outside of that, you don't want to think about it, and it's expensive anytime you have to touch it. So that's the utility guy. Then you have, for lack of a better term, the shiny object people. The ones that think they really understand IT, they get the concept that it can do great things for them, and so they're easily distracted by the shiny object. They read a description of a solution somewhere that tells them, oh, salesforce.com or XYZ solution or SAP, whatever it is, they read these descriptions of all of these types of solutions. And of course, from a sales and marketing perspective, they all sound really wonderful. And people assume that what they've read is the perfect answer. We're going to buy this and we're going to implement it. But they didn't really think about what that tool does and how it works for their environment, because although not everybody's unique, there are obviously differences in businesses, small, large, industry to industry, etc. Then you have the third type that I call the planner. That's the organization and the individual that says, what are we really trying to accomplish here? What is our end goal? What does that look like? Now let's go look at the solutions and find one that fits the bulk of those requirements so that we have the least amount of change and the least amount of customization. And those are the folks that are gravitating to success quickly. It seems like it takes them longer because they take more time up front, but in the long run, it is definitely faster and a lot less expensive because they don't have the amount of rework. They haven't simply moved the problem and made it go faster. They've really thought about, okay, here's where we are today. By the time we get done with this project, it's going to be 60 days from now or 2 years from now, depending on the project. Where is our business going to be then, and where do we want it to go? So building requirements today based on where you are today or last year doesn't help you. You've got to build your requirements based on where you want to go and how you want to work, which is a different lens. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you actually answered more than I thought, because I don't work in your industry, but it's really good to know that there are those types of people that exist. Would you say that these types of these companies that come to you go through many consultants, or just go to one consultant and hopefully get all their issues worked?
No, if they're smart, they're going to go to many consultants, because just like for myself, I don't know everything. And so finding the consultant who knows what they know and knows when to say, nope, I'm not the best person. Here's 1, 2, 3 other names of people that you should talk to, and here's how they should deliver, is what you really want. Now, there are larger consulting organizations that big companies can partner with the bigger companies because they have, and you can get a lot of this stuff done there. So if you're a Procter & Gamble or a Kroger, you may partner with some of the big national, international players and get lots and lots of stuff. But most of them deal with multiple partners.
Gotcha. So where can you find all these consultants? Do you just try to find one on the street and say, hi, can you help my company? Do you do a quick LinkedIn search?
Most of my clients come from direct referrals.
Okay.
So people that know me and end up telling them. So I call them my army of ambassadors. Some people do get their business and find their consultants because they've seen an advertisement. They've seen something in print, they've read an article. But generally, if you're looking for a consultant, it's because you've seen some other source that validates their ability, that makes you want to go listen to them to begin with.
Gotcha. Okay. So you mentioned that you worked through a lot of IT, worked through a lot of business, worked through a lot of experiences. Would you say that consulting is like the final job before retirement?
It depends on the person. It is for me because that's been my mindset for a long time and what I personally wanted to do. I know other folks that are like, no way, I want to do my job and then I'm done. And it's just not their thing at all. So I think that's a personal choice. It's one a lot of people do take, but there are equally as many people that don't take that path.
Fair enough. Would you say there are any special soft skills or traits that people should, try to foster within themselves? especially high schoolers?
Communication. So what you're doing right now is huge, even though I know it's not the most comfortable thing in the world to do, but getting comfortable having any form of communication, both written and in person, is probably the best thing you can do, because there isn't anything that doesn't apply to that and have an impact. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You've got to communicate. You got to talk about, you've got to get requirements from people. You've got to talk about what you think the outcome is going to be, when the deliverable is going to be. You've got to be able to communicate for yourself and stand up for yourself and say, hey, I did a good job on this, or I'm really frustrated, I'm not getting where I want to go. And that is a really tough thing to learn. It's something I wish I'd have had a little better coaching on through, especially early in my career, but even ongoing, because it's the one thing that can constantly be improved upon.
So would you say that you had to learn yourself how to do this, or is there a way you can learn this through other means, like communication-wise?
Well, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Experience, but finding a mentor, finding a personal coach and champion is huge. That and the difference between the two, sometimes they're the same person, but often they're not. So I kind of called it creating my own personal board of advisors. And they were different people based on the question or challenge that I had at the time. But people who care enough about you that they'll tell you when you screw up in a loving, coaching way. People that will champion you when you're not around to say, hey, here's somebody you should consider for this. Here's why, give them a shot. Yeah, I know they haven't done it before, but they've demonstrated the ability to learn and to take on new challenge. So a mentor is the person who's going to kind of provide you some feedback and give you their experiences and so forth. A coach will provide you additional detail, like I said, give you that was really good, but don't ever do that again kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think finding those folks, sometimes it's your boss, but usually I recommend it being someone else, your boss's peer, another manager, a peer to you, but who has more experience. So having somebody at all of those positions is a really good thing.
Okay, so I guess it's more of a communication, asking questions. Would you say public speaking is also in that realm?
It never hurts. And it depends on what you want to do with your career. If you want to lead people and get to a senior position within an organization, then you have to get comfortable speaking in front of groups. Now, sometimes those are smaller groups because it's only your staff. Sometimes it's much bigger depending on the company. If your goal and your decision is to be a really strong independent contributor, and there are ways to have really long, wonderful careers in that path, that public speaking is not as critical, but that one-on-one and communicating your value so you can move up to take on more responsibility and stay in that kind of a role is important.
Gotcha. So considering a lot of our viewers are probably going into college or are most likely considering college, what are some course recommendations? Like in general, maybe like a communication, like interpersonal communication courses, some maybe psychology courses in like the workplace?
I don't know what they're doing with psychology courses right now because it's been so long since I've been there. So if they have a psychology in the workplace, that would be good. I'd be surprised if they did. Almost all of them do have communication/speaking courses. That's an absolute. And then taking some of the basic business classes
Like
to
you
make
mentioned.
sure you understand what's a P&L, what's some of the profit and loss statement, it's the accounting things.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so profit and loss is the accounting stuff, and that's where a lot of the gaps are. So business terminology, anything that can help you with that, because that'll help you bridge the gap between connecting what you're doing to what's the bigger goal of the business. And when you can do that, you can add value.
All right, so I guess in the field of IT, becoming a jack of many trades is better than a master of none.
Again, it kind of depends, because
Okay.
if you want to be that really strong independent contributor, being that person who really knows the ins and outs of specific technologies and what's coming and being really deep is really, really good. If you aspire to be part of a management team and a leader, then you have to have a bit more jack of all trades kinds of things and understanding the bigger perspectives. Because to your point, part of any job, whether you're a manager or an independent contributor, is understanding how to influence people not directly in your control. So you have to get information from them, you have to validate dates, you have to get approval to do things. So being able to get that influence. So I think there are a lot of people that would say right now being a jack of all trades is a good thing, but there is equally still value in being really, really strong in a particular area to be able to help troubleshoot and leverage the technology in ways people hadn't thought of, because you know this way and you know it connects to that and it can do this and it can't do that and it'll put us in a box. So there's still value to that. But you have to match that up with your own personal goals and interests, because there are different skill sets and experiences you want to give yourself.
Gotcha. So we're talking about masters of none and jacks of all trades. So in a really large company, I know that there's specific positions that they want people to be in who are supposed to be masters. But in like smaller companies, you're supposed to be like good at a lot of different things to be able to be flexible. Do you see that sort of mindset changing at all within the next, I don't know, decade, century, year?
There'll be some shift to it, but not a lot. I mean, just think of the logistics. So if you're in a small company, there's all the same stuff has to get done, but you just don't have as many people. So being that, you know, jack of all trades, master of none is definitely going to continue to be the case there. At the same time, when I say that, when I look at like CIOs of small to medium businesses, they're doing a lot of hands-on stuff. So they actually have some pretty deep technical knowledge as well, that they can get in and do the dig and do the fixes themselves. Yeah. When you get into the bigger companies, the CIOs of the big boys, they're not touching code and machines. They're figuring out budgets and projects and personnel and what's the right thing. So I do think that that's going to kind of stay the same, just because of the dynamics of the organizations. There'll be nuances, of course, but I don't see that being a big shift.
Fair enough, fair enough. Let's see. What college did you attend?
I went to Indiana University over in Bloomington.
Did you go for business or IT?
No, I actually was in the business school.
Oh.
With a double major in quantitative business analysis and marketing. And so the QBA degree was actually all computer programming. So when you got into QBA, you could go down either economic forecasting, so it was a real heavy math, or you could go down the programming side, and I chose the programming side. And so I think that's what's helped me with my career and being able to do that translation, because I came from the business school and had the deep technical as well, as opposed to just the computer science school. Not that there's anything wrong with computer science, but.
I understand. I never realized it'd be that important to have an understanding of business and IT.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that. I should definitely do that. Any of your viewers, you should definitely do that too. That sounds really important right now.
I think that's one of the biggest shifts we've seen, is because that is probably the biggest shift I've seen in my career, is that IT is not relegated to the back room and as a support function anymore. It is now critical to be part of the business and making the decisions that drive the business to be a competitive advantage.
Definitely. So have you worked for a smaller company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've worked for a couple privately owned, family-owned companies here in town. So one, I want to say we had 15 employees.
Oh, okay.
One of them we had, it depended on how you counted, we had a couple hundred in the corporate office, and then with the people we had out in the field, we had a couple thousand. And then of course I worked for HP, which had tens of thousands.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the differences sort of between working in a smaller company versus a bigger company? Like in the business and the technical and the environment, the people?
So small company, obviously you're going to know everybody, you're going to wear more hats. You're not going to have probably the latest and greatest of everything, because you're juggling the resources. But if you've got a good progressive leader, they're going to know where to invest and use that as the competitive differentiator. versus investing in other things that may not yield the same results. Organizationally, structurally, politically, they vary, although the end result is kind of the same. I mean, you still have to figure out who's got what, who has the final decision, how do you go from there. The big companies, you've got a lot more people, you're deeper in the knowledge like we talked a minute ago, and the skill sets, and you have more opportunities to move into other areas. So not just up, but across. So in a larger company, you can move laterally to acquire new skills and try out new things that you may not have been able to see or do in a small company. And those lateral moves are not always bad. They're often very, very good because they give you a unique perspective that would allow you then to move up in an organization later in your career and bring some good experience behind. So I think that's kind of one of the biggest things, the difference between the big and the small.
So in the context of the situation, being an intern at a larger company would probably be more valuable than interning at a smaller one. Or
it would be different.
Okay.
The difference is in a smaller company, you're probably going to get to see more of things in the business, more departments, more people, get direct exposure to very different departments. In a bigger company, you're going to get to see more tools, more tech, more job descriptions, more structure.
Okay.
So they're both very valuable, just different.
Okay, that's really helpful. So in your world of business, what do you think your most important trait is for being really successful?
For me personally?
Yeah.
My secret sauce is probably that ability to translate, to be at the table and hear when people are not necessarily talking about the same thing. They're saying the same words sometimes and they think they understand, but they've missed a sub point, and being able to kind of come back and go, no, wait a minute, stop, go back, tell me, is this what you meant or is this what you meant? And to bring people back to the right decision to move forward. Because if you don't do that, then you kind of end up finding out you've gone down different paths later and you've missed your main role. So I think that translation and being able to understand that and bring everybody to the table. And then my other big strength, I think, is being able to bring organization and a way forward out of the chaos that often comes from complex situations and challenges. And so when things aren't going right or you're trying to do something new, be able to pause and say, okay, well, if that's not going to work, what if, what about, yeah, but, you know, and help people move forward. That's probably mine.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it. Yeah. I can't say the same for myself. I run with the chaos and see where it drags me. But I get having people who are really organized on the team are really helpful too. So it's really true. Do you think that like in sort of your position that you have any troubles dealing with your personnel or your peers? Because from my experience, I'm extremely socially awkward. If I don't have notes in front of me, like right now, I'm asking you a question that isn't written. I was like stuttering a lot. I didn't know where I was heading. I already forget where I was heading. Like at that point, you have like little scuffles, like maybe like one of those imposter syndromes happening. Like, does that ever happen?
Oh, I think everybody has imposter syndrome throughout their career. I think we all fake it to some extent. I generally shy away from saying women are different than men, but this is one area I think that we are worse, and we're harder on ourselves and saying, yeah, I don't deserve that. I'm not qualified to do that and take too long. It took me a long time to learn to stand up and go, no, I can handle that. I'm just as smart. Or more importantly, say he doesn't know any more than I do, so I might as well go do it. So that's definitely there. Being able to admit when you're wrong, but being able to admit when you're wrong, but that doesn't mean failure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough lesson to learn too. So that's probably, I don't think I see specific challenges with peers as a problem or a single thing that's kind of come up. So.
Fair enough. I know some workplaces are slightly biased against like race or gender or just appearances or based on your amount of technical know-how. I know a lot of I know like some companies are like biased towards it. I know we're trying to get better at it, but if I was wondering if you had any experience with that, but I'm happy it's mainly positive. Oh, wait.
Well, no, you got to remember how long ago it was when I started in this. So, I mean, back when I started, you didn't even wear pants to work. You had to wear a skirt, you had to wear heels, and you had to wear hose. And yeah, there were definitely places that people were like, there was no way I could be the business person. I had to have been something else. But once I realized it, I was able to just kind of laugh about it and use it to my advantage. And in most cases, I have found it to be an advantage because you stick out. You're memorable. So if you're unique and smart, then you're memorable. And most people quickly get it that you're smart and accept that. And I think technology in particular is a level playing field. You can either understand the tech and move it forward, or you don't. So I always say, I just want to know what the work and the quality are.
Work in the quality of the technology?
Right. Yeah. What's the job you need done and how well can you do it?
Ah, okay.
You know, I don't really care where you came from. I want to know if you're smart. You know, if you're going to, and I don't care if you don't have all the answers. I want to know you're going to work hard to try to figure it out or go learn it, take some initiative. You know, if you ask me, am I biased or prejudiced? I have a strong prejudice to laziness.
My parents can agree to that.
That's probably my biggest one. You know, I don't care if you're ignorant because you haven't been exposed to something, but if you're just plain lazy and don't bother to care and go figure it out and find a solution, then I don't have time for you.
So that's definitely one of those like traits you're looking for in like a new hire.
Absolutely. And just about everybody I know, that's what they're looking for. They want an inquisitive person. They want someone who's willing to learn, who's to say, I don't know how, but I'm willing to try and figure things out.
So with people like that trying to get into the industry, is there also like a safety net to fall back on? So they're really, really interested in like the first few months, and then after like, I don't know, 3 months of really hard productive work, they're like, wait, and like they're going into a little depressive state. Do those same companies sort of like cushion the fall a bit and try to bring you back up? Do you see that happening?
There are definitely companies that are better at that than others, but it really comes down to the individual managers. And technology is definitely one that's like that. Most of us that get into tech are getting into the field because we like doing some kind of problem solving. We're looking at a way of doing something different, right? That's what, I don't care what part of tech you're in, whether you're in infrastructure and you're figuring out how the servers work and how to connect cords and cables in the background. You're trying to design the network infrastructure, how we're going to communicate this message from my laptop to yours and build the box that does that over airwaves or over wire or over fiber optic glass, or whether you're a business analyst who's trying to be the bridge between business and IT to define the problem, or you're in AI. We're all in this to solve a problem. One of the things that we discovered when I was in one of my roles, and the concept of outsourcing had kind of just been starting at the time, where you didn't have everything in your own company, you paid somebody else to do it, or you brought in an outside company to do it for you. And one of the things we learned was after about 18 months, we had to rotate people. We could give them the exact same job, but at a different company, and they would shine. But after 18 months in the same company doing the same job, they got bored and the quality started to slip and all kinds of things. But we found when we rotated them and swapped them out and put them in a different company, they came to life again because they had a lot to learn. And what I've learned over the years is that's the case for just about everybody. Whether you're a programmer or any of those other jobs, you want to be doing something else. If you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it gets boring. And we as humans, when we're bored, we're not very productive.
Exactly.
So you have to have something kind of kick you in the butt. So a good manager is going to spot that and find ways to incent folks, especially in the roles that you get entry level, because they're the ones that are repetitive and can get boring, but you have to be there for a certain while and you got to wait till the next job opens up. So, excuse me, the good managers will find out ways to make that unique.
Would you say that, you said 18 months, 18 months. Would you say 18 months is like a magic number, or does it just depend on the individual?
It varies with the individual and it varies with the job. But 18 months is probably a pretty good number. Even in my sales role, it was kind of the opposite. It takes, depending on the complexity of sale, but it would often take as much as 18 months before you'd really get rocking and rolling. As opposed to if you're running a help desk person, if you're sitting on the help desk, 18 months, you're bored. You've got to be challenged. So it depends on the job.
Okay. So what we're talking about is like moving people. Can we move them, as you said, in the companies, like vertically, horizontally, and then vertically? So any of those positions works just to get them going again, or would you like have a specific direction?
No, there's no specific direction because it's going to vary dramatically based on the company, their size and their structure, as well as the individual. Because sometimes when you get bored, you may have someone who's showing good signs of leadership and ready to move up to the next job, but there may not be a team leader manager job open. So how do I give them something that keeps them engaged, continues to develop their leadership and their interest and their desire to work for our company? But I can't give them that piece yet. So do I give them a project? Do I find another job in another department where I can cross-train? So any one of those three can play out. A horizontal lateral move, a vertical move, or a special project in addition. It's kind of a timestamp thing.
Huh. Never thought of it that way. So I guess just in IT, there's just a bunch of opportunities waiting for you then.
Yeah.
Would you say that any of these opportunities could dry up in the next decade or so? Even with all the moves to technology, there might be an influx of technology and not enough business, or you might have to move around. Would you say that would be true?
I think that the types of technology that people work with is definitely shifting. So just think of the changes in the cell phone. We didn't even have them however many years ago, okay? But we have them now and they keep getting smarter and smarter and better pictures and doing more, right?
Yeah.
So think about what COVID's done. The advancement of video conferencing. That's not going to go away. They're going to continue to enhance that. Google, Microsoft are all competing to get back some of the share that Zoom has captured because of this. And the reason Zoom was successful at the growth that it has is because it's so easy to use, versus Microsoft's Teams versus Google. Whatever Google's is.
Whatever. Google Hangouts, Google Meet, something around there.
Yeah, Meetup. Yeah, they have a couple platforms. So that's a really good example. So then think of technology related to drones and robots. Okay. So when you think of all the technology that's out there and you think of the Internet of Things, that I put a chip in your refrigerator, I'm at the grocery store, ping my refrigerator, is the milk gone? It's going to change what we do. Self-driving cars, flying cars, all in test today. Flying cars have been being tested for the last 2 years. It's the government and trying to figure out how to manage the airwaves and the legal things and the insurance is really why some of that hasn't come about yet.
Yeah.
So what's happening in the industry when you look at it is, so years ago, like I said, all the companies had their own technology in-house. They had their own hardware. They had their own people that did all the servers and the storage and the backups and connected to the modems and all of that stuff. Well, now with cloud or as a service, everything as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, if that's your interest, you're going to have to go to one of those companies that provides that service, and they're doing it for lots of people, And it's working because they're very deep in what they do, and that cost can be spread out for the companies that they're servicing. As opposed to if you wanted to go work for a Kroger or an 8451 or a P&G, they're trying to create new ways to leverage technology to deliver you a good. Kroger, if you really look at them and you looked at all the people they have and where the money is really a technology company.
That is true.
They have a huge R&D, right?
Digital, yeah.
Yeah, so they're really a technology company. Amazon is a technology company that happens to do logistics, and they do logistics very, very well. So they've taken technology and laid it on top of those delivery mechanisms and supply chains to get us products in ways we've never gotten them before. So when you look down the road, the job growth is going to continue to be there. It's just the technology that you use. So a programming language, if you're a software programmer today, you're not using the same languages they used 15 years ago, probably even 5 years ago. So that's where the change will continue to take place.
Oh, that was a lot for one question. Thanks so much for that. I sometimes I forget how like technology forward we are in this age. I like forget I have a MacBook right here and we're not dealing with Adele 2011. Right. I say that because my last year's Adele 2011, it was terrible. But you know, it was Dell. I tried. Oh, we're closing up on the session right now, but do you have any like hobbies you're currently exploring or any sort of hobbies you think people should get into?
No, I mean, I think the idea of a hobby is to keep your mind engaged and keep you alive and wanting to do other things. So I think sometimes your hobbies should be very different from your work, because sometimes that you have them all together, or at least be able to look at it as different from your work. So it may be the same. So if you're a software developer and you love writing code, but you want your hobby to be that, then make your hobby be in an open forum where you're doing something that's totally different than what you would be developing at work. So that it spikes your brain, gets you learning, gets you interacting with different people in different groups. So, you know, hobbies should be fun and outside of there.
Always, yeah. My own hobby is playing music, so yeah, that's one for me. All right, we're at our last 3 minutes. Thank you so much again, Tracy, for coming out for like, well, at least logging into Zoom and doing this like hour-long session with me. We have more AMAs on the way. If you follow, we have 2 Tech Talks on the way that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So if you are at all interested in joining, please look at our INTERalliance, the INTERalliance of Greater Cincinnati's social media links down below in the description. We also have ILC applications. So if you love what we're doing right now and want to be a part of the team that's making this happen, please sign up at interalliance.org. Underneath the programs tab, it's going to have ILC. We have applications out right now, and you can apply to join our team and continue to do what we're doing. Maybe you can implement some amazing technology solutions to make the world a better place and help other high schoolers be inspired. Tracy, do you have any final last words or tips you'd like to tell all our viewers?
Hey, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. You've got wonderful opportunities ahead of you, and don't hesitate to reach out to those around you. Most of us are happy to help. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again. Have a nice night, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.